We start in Seoul, where the suspended South Korean President Yoon Suk Yeol has finally been arrested over his short-lived martial law declaration in December. There have been angry scenes and clashes outside the presidential residence throughout the morning. Investigators forced entry into the president's home to arrest him early on Wednesday morning. It was their second attempt to arrest him after being prevented by President Yoon's security staff. In the last hour, President Yoon himself has released a video message. In it, he said, "When I saw them invading the security perimeter, I decided to appear before the CIO, even though it is an illegal investigation, in order to prevent any bloodshed." Now, for more on this, I'm joined by our reporter, Rachel Lee, who is outside the presidential residence right now. Rachel, hopefully you can hear me this time round. Just get us up to speed with the latest now that President Yoon has been arrested.
Right, as you can see here, the road is completely clear now. There have been a lot of people here, especially a couple of hours ago. People were chanting, they were protesting against against the execution of President Yoon Suk Yeol's arrest warrant. And some of them have been even camping out overnight in this freezing weather. It said it recorded -8 degrees Celsius. But regardless of the cold temperature, people were staying out, chanting, protesting, rallying, and to try to stop the execution of arrest warrant of suspended President Yoon Suk Yeol. But now it's been cleared up, as I said, as soon as local media reported that the suspended leader is now heading to the Gwacheon government complex, where the corruption investigation office is located. And Yoon also released a statement earlier before he headed to the CIO, saying that he is now heading. He has decided to head to the CIO office because of the safety concerns.
Yeah, and with that, what happens next then, Rachel, for both President Yoon and for those supporters that have now disbanded?
Right. So what's going to happen next? Suspended President Yoon Suk Yeol will now head to the Gwacheon government complex. As I said, he will now receive questioning about his charges against insurrection, and the rest of the time he will be reportedly staying in Seoul Detention Center. And now it's up to constitutional where. Constitutional court where they have to decide within 180 days whether to uphold the impeachment of the suspended leader. Now, if the court decides to uphold the impeachment, then South Korea will have to have an election within 60 days.
Yeah, the emotions or the wheels are in motion now that he has surrendered to authorities. Rachel, thanks very much for getting us up to speed there. Rachel Lee outside the presidential residence in Seoul. Now let's get more analysis on this developing story with Henry Haggard, a former advisor on Korean politics at the U.S. Embassy in South Korea, now a non-resident fellow at the Baker Institute. Henry, thank you for joining me to talk about this. Firstly, what do you think it was that got this arrest over the line this time when it failed the first time round?
Steve, thanks for having me on. I think that most everyone who's watching this knew that was the inevitable next phase. So I think that it was best to move on. Certainly from an outside perspective, it was very positive to get the domestic legal procedure, the wheels moving, and get this arrest and investigation done. Because this is the process, and it's really vital that South Korea is now following its own rule of law, its own process.
And the president himself released a video saying that calling the investigation illegal, but he has submitted to the arrest in order to prevent bloodshed. What do you make of the statements that he's been making, calling these arrests against him as illegal?
So I think that really the story is hopefully moving on from former president or deposed President Yoon and moving on to what's next. I think, of course, President Yoon has committed to fight to the end. I don't think that really has much meaning. I think that the vast majority of people in Korea understand that his illegal declaration of martial law was kind of was the original sin. And so this is, I think it's important that we're looking, and I think you see people looking beyond to a likely presidential election. So I think this, yeah, important that he's going to get invested to take part in the investigation. But really, we're looking at is how this moves forward towards an election.
And do you think then that this is an encouraging sign for South Korea's democracy, that the procedure has sort of taken place and that the sort of political maneuverings, if you like, can move forward?
Definitely. What I've said from the beginning is the quicker they turn the page, the better. There's no gray area here, although, the deposed president is trying to create, a martyr complex, and that he's, being illegally arrested or questioned. But the reality is he's done something that is really, again, I'm not a constitutional scholar, but it's from all kind of normal perspectives, this is unconstitutional. So it's really important that they move on to the next phase. This is certainly from an outside perspective, because the quicker that moves forward, the sooner normal relations can be resumed between South Korea and United States and other allies and partners.
Yeah, and just taking up on that point about sort of how this has been looking from the outside, what sort of damage has this done to South Korea's reputation?
See, I don't think the reputation is really the important thing here. South Korea and the United States are allies. South Korea and Japan have a lasting a relationship that is, and I think you saw the Japanese and American, foreign minister and secretary of state visiting. They understand that it's not about reputation; it's about the vital importance of the relationship with South Korea in order to deter North Korea, in order to work together for shared prosperity of the three, in this case, of those three countries. So I think, reputation, sure, it's taking a hit, but I think ultimately, what we'll see in 6 months or a year, we'll be talking about the vitality of Korea's democratic process. I think just as we did in the previous times where South Korea has gone through domestic convulsions. I think that is politically, that's how South Korea is approaching its democratic evolution. And so I think that is reputation, and democratic reputation is not such a key issue here. I think the issue is how important is South Korea to the United States or to Japan or to other allies and partners. And the answer is South Korea remains vitally important on the security front, on the economic front. And I think that in 6 months or a year, we will be looking hopefully at this in the rear view and charting a more positive path forward.